Next, I am going to welcome Alma Borja. Alma works with victims every day in her role as director of Karen's House, the local shelter for women and children, who did the artwork on your tables, if you remember. Karen's House is part of the services provided by Family Services of Tulare County, and Alma is going to introduce a survivor who is going to speak to us.
I know I'm short. Can everybody see me? Now I can calm down. The translator and my speakers here, and I was freaking out earlier that they were not showing up. So again, my name is Alma Borja. I oversee Karen's House, which is our emergency shelter. And a lot of times we don't have the opportunity to actually hear from our clients that leave our program. And I'm blessed and always inspired by our next guest, which I still keep in touch with since it's been many years that I actually worked with her. So I know we have 15 minutes, so I'll wrap it up really quick. So first I'm gonna introduce a small video. It doesn't tell the whole story of my client, but it really shows that there is hope for domestic violence survivors or domestic violence victims to access our services and become a productive individual in our community. So if we can show that video for right now.
The first summer of our marriage was all sunshine, barbecues, and dreams about the future. The same week I found out I was pregnant, my husband got a new job in California. I wouldn't have to teach anymore, and I'd be at home with the baby. I can't really explain why, but I remember that night when everything changed. It was like a light had gone out, and everything just went dark. The first time he yelled at me was after a party. He said I was spending too much time with his friend. I thought it was a joke, but when the plate hit the wall, I stopped laughing. He apologized later while I cleaned up the mess. For years, I tried to put together the broken pieces. I didn't talk with other men, I smiled less, I barely left the house anymore, but things still got worse. Reality stopped making sense, his moods were unpredictable, and I was afraid of everything. I felt like I was hiding in my own home. I even cooked in the dark. It was hard to believe that I had once been a teacher. Now, if I ever talked, it was barely a whisper. And when we went to church, I was afraid to look at anything but my feet. And eventually, we just stopped going altogether. It took 10 years to realize things wouldn't change. Even after he left me alone in the house for a week, I still couldn't bring myself to leave. I tried my best to hide the bruises and keep the yelling behind closed doors, but when I saw the fear on my sons' faces, I knew they deserved better. And then Family Services gave a presentation at my son's school. They showed me something better was possible. They helped me find the courage I'd lost. Still, walking out that front door was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. There were never any bars, but for 10 years I lived in a cage. I was afraid to be in the house, but I was even more afraid to leave it. When we arrived at the shelter, we had nothing, only the clothes on our backs. Family Services treated us like family. They gave us clothes, shoes, toothbrushes, even toys for my kids. I felt lost, completely dependent. I had spent most of the last decade living in a bedroom, and even the idea of buying my own groceries overwhelmed me. But people helped me with little things, like how to write a check, how to open a bank account. When I was too afraid to ride the bus, they encouraged me, just ride it, all day long if you have to. It will be okay. So I did. The biggest help was the other women. The first night in the shelter, they comforted me, smiled, touched my arm, but mostly they just talked and shared their own stories. And the more I listened, the more I was able to find my own voice. Sometimes it is still difficult to walk through that front door. It takes a while to remember that I'm not alone. It's hard learning to live in a community again. But Family Services has given us a place to stay, and my boys, they call it their palace. It's lighter in the house, more talking, more smiling. We cook together, we go to the park after school. And at night, we read stories. And there's nothing better than to hear their voices and to watch their faces as they read. I'll read too when they ask, though I'm still getting used to the sound of my own voice. But it's a start.
I actually had the privilege to work with Maria when she first came to Karen's house several years ago. And just seeing all the accomplishments that, or how she has blossomed all these years, it's been really inspirational to me. And really, it's the fuel for me, and it's the reason why I do this work. Although I have to respond to calls at 3 a.m., 12 a.m. She's really, and she's been a person that is inspiring. Every time we talk about success stories, I always think about Maria. So it's really an honor for me to stand before you and actually introduce her, and for her to share. The video doesn't really tell the whole story, everything that she experienced in this abusive relationship. And I think it's important that we have her here and hear from her what she has experienced and how she has accomplished and become a productive individual in this community. So, Maria, and I want to thank Angelica for helping with translation. So they're going to take turns.
Buenas tardes a todos por estar aquí. Muchas gracias por escucharme. Mi nombre es María Pisano. Lo voy a leer todo porque es mucho como para, no, tal vez si lo diría de memoria no recordaría cada cosa como lo quisiera expresar para ustedes. Hace 11 años vine de México a Estados Unidos con mi esposo, dejando allá a mi familia, mi carrera de maestra. Siempre viví en casa de su familia, dentro de un cuarto en el que recuerdo siempre viví frustrada, pues me sentía acosada, discriminada y vigilada por su familia, pues me quitaban autoridad y derechos de mis 3 hijos. El padre de los niños diario se ausentaba y la limitada comunicación que existía entre nosotros eran solo discusiones, reproches sobre mi vida, mi físico, mi comportamiento y mis quehaceres domésticos, pues nada le parecía bien. Hubo maltratos emocionales, físicos, injustos, incluso frente a sus familiares, los cuales lo apoyaban y ayudaban para mantenerme incomunicada y vigilada hasta por 30 días. o el tiempo necesario para volver a lo mismo, lo cual me llevó a 10 años viviendo en el mismo círculo de una violencia doméstica en todos los sentidos, que en muchos momentos hasta pensaba que era normal por la manera en que jugaban con mi mente. Pero finalmente descubrí al esposo que elegí para toda la vida, el cual tenía amantes, hijos y una familia cómplice que lo ayudaba para mantenerme solo para limpiar la casa, pues no era tomada en cuenta ni me dejaban tomar decisiones.
My name is Maria Borjas, and thank you for being here listening to my story. 11 years ago, I came from Mexico to the United States with my husband, leaving behind my family and my career as a teacher. We came to live with his family in a room. I remember leaving frustrated because I always felt harassed and discriminated, and his family always watched me closely, even took any authority or rights I had of my 3 children. My husband could daily sit down by me and limit our conversations mainly about my life, my physical, my behavior, and house cleaning. Nothing ever seems good enough for him. There was always mental and physical abuse, even in front of his family. Those that support him and help him could keep a close eye on me and kept me from communicating with anyone up to 30 days or any long periods of time. My husband kept this cycle going for 10 years of domestic violence. He knew how to play with my mind. Then in moments I thought it was normal. I finally realized what type of man my husband was. He had affairs, turned my children against me, and a family then helped him and had me as a maid. I never felt like I ever counted in the family because I could never make decisions by my own.
En mi punto de vista, creo que todos los maltratos durante ese tiempo fueron su estrategia para mantenerme cohibida y controlada. Fui al refugio de Visalia Karen's House por segunda ocasión. Empecé ahí una nueva vida con mis 3 hijos. Fue una experiencia de mucha paz y descanso para mí, pero por mucho tiempo pasé mucha tristeza por haber separado a los niños de su padre y dificultades porque ahora sí tengo que ejercer autoridad en ellos y ayudarlos a sobrellevar y comprender nuestra nueva vida y los problemas que en esta se nos presentan. Y todo en especial a ellos como niños, la separación de sus padres los ha afectado mucho y en diferentes maneras. He visto cómo sufren la impotencia al no poder solucionar la separación, pues sus sueños y anhelos que una vez tuvieron se han roto al no poder vivir con los 2 padres.
In my point of view, I believe all the abuse I endured was his strategy to keep me close up in control. I went to Karen's house, a women's shelter in Visalia. For the second time I have been there. I started a new life with my children. It was peaceful and calm experience, but sad at the same time because I separated my children from their father. I faced new difficulties because I was not used to take authority over them and to help them adjust to our new life and problems that came, the problems that came along, especially what I noticed with my children. Each one was affected differently from the separation from their father. I have seen how they have suffered that they can find a solution to the separation and hoping to have both parents together again.
Al inicio de la separación, cuando fuimos al refugio, pude ver el peor descontrol emocional por el que estaban pasando mis hijos. Incluso el personal intervino ayudando a los niños a mejorar su rebeldía y su intolerancia. El hecho de adaptarse a 2 hogares no es fácil. Para los niños, al inicio, ellos reflejan momentos de agresividad, se sienten incompletos, estresados, susceptibles, tristes, nerviosos, irritados, descontentos, ansiosos, confundidos y atrapados, pues tratan de complacer a ambos padres. Experimentan temor al compartir sus verdaderos sentimientos. Suelen ser más prudentes para no disgustar a alguno de sus padres. Tratan a costa de lo que sea evitar preferencias y les gusta no les gusta sentir que tienen que escoger entre ambos padres. Se puede observar que les baja el nivel de felicidad y autoestima. Sienten frustración en la escuela con sus compañeros, pues ellos comentan la pena que les da cuando su maestra hace un regalo para cada padre.
When we first went to the shelter, I noticed that my children went into emotional breakdowns. The staff intervened by helping my children how to overcome their rebellion behaviors. For my children, it was hard to adjust to staying at two different homes. In the beginning, they showed moments of stress, sadness, nervousness, irritation, and confused, trying to please both parents, afraid to share their feelings. They were trying really hard not to prefer one parent over the other because they didn't want to have to choose between them. They were unhappy and had low self-esteem. I noticed they were frustrated in school when they could tell their friends how embarrassing it was when the teacher had them to do gifts for two separate parents.
Pienso que mis niños han transformado el dolor de la separación en susceptibilidad, sensibilidad, humildad, agradecidos, son ahora bondadosos, pacíficos, tiernos, calmados, compasivos, tranquilos y eficaces en sus estudios, y todo esto a raíz de la experiencia que están viviendo ahora en un lugar pacífico y donde recibo ayudas de muchas personas. En especial, agradezco fundamentalmente a Family Services porque me han ayudado con un hogar y todo lo que se necesita para vivir dentro de él. Incluso la traducción de mis estudios de México a Estados Unidos. La motivación para seguir mis estudios de inglés y aspirar a un mejor trabajo como madre sola, sin familia en este estado, y sentirme capaz de que puedo salir adelante con mis 3 hijos, pues yo soy su esperanza, así como ellos son mi bendición, soporte y apoyo.
I believe that my children were helped a lot through family service, and now I can see the difference of their behavior. They are more grateful, peaceful, compassionate, and doing much better in their studies. All this because all the help we receive from so many people, especially I'm so grateful to family service because they helped me find a place to live in. Also, they helped me to transfer my studies from Mexico to the United States and motivate me to continue studying English to find a better job. As a single mother, I feel capable of going forward with my children. I am their hope, and they are my blessing and my support.
En general, todos los padres queremos lo mejor para nuestros hijos. De hecho, mi familia me apoyó económicamente a completar una carrera con el propósito de asegurar mi futuro en caso de que no me fuera bien en un matrimonio. Su deseo era no permitir que alguien me maltratara y quedarme en una relación por dependencia y temor por no salir adelante sola. Desafortunadamente me enfrenté con esta situación, cual fue muy difícil de escapar por las siguientes razones. En primer lugar, no causarles el dolor a mi familia de verme en esta situación. En segundo lugar, por no separar a mis hijos de su padre. En tercer lugar, por cumplir mi deseo de mantener mi familia unida para siempre.
In general, all the parents, we want the best for our children. I am grateful that my family helped me financially to finish my career as a teacher with the purpose of securing my future. If it didn't go well in my marriage, my parents' wish was for me not to permit someone to abuse me and stay in a relationship that could drag me down. Unfortunately, I was faced with a situation that they feared me to be in. It was really hard for me to escape my marriage for these reasons. First of all, I didn't want to cause my family pain to see me in this situation, and second thing, I didn't want to separate my children from their father. Especially the third thing, I wanted to keep my wedding vows.
Una vez tuve el valor de irme con mis hijos al refugio pero el dolor de verlos sufriendo por la ausencia de su padre fue lo que me hizo regresar a la misma relación. No me preocupé por mí, solo quería pensar en verlos felices a ellos. Durante los siguientes 3 años, lejos de mejorar la relación, todo fue peor. Fue difícil salir de la relación por segunda vez. Me sentía presionada y me preocupaba por el qué dirán y no sabía si iba a tener el mismo apoyo. Pero en medio de mi desesperación y angustias, solo podía pensar en las palabras que me dijo Alma Borja. Pase lo que pase, el tiempo que sea, siempre vamos a estar aquí para ayudarte. Y un día, por segunda vez lo dejé, ahora por miedo a no morir, porque pensaba que iba a morir. Me sentía tan mal y dejar a mis hijos sin madre, pues mi salud ya no estaba bien. Ya nada me importaba, más que sobrevivir para atender a mis hijos, pues ellos están enfermos de asma. Quiero dar un mensaje a todas las personas.
I once had the courage to live with my children to the women's shelter, but I saw my children suffering, so I decided to go back for them to be happy. The next 3 years after that, instead of things getting better, things got worse. It was really hard to live for the second time. I felt trapped and I was worried what others could say. I didn't know I could have the same support. In the middle of my desperation and anguish, the only thing I was thinking of the words that Alma Borja said to me: whatever happens, whatever time it is, we will always be here to help you. The second time I left my husband, it was fear of dying and leaving my children without a mother. I was struggling with my health, but I didn't care for anything but to survive, to be with my children.
Quiero dar un mensaje a todas las personas que conocen a alguien que está pasando por lo mismo, que les comuniquen, que no tengan miedo a pedir ayuda las veces que sea necesario, que tengan en cuenta que pueden regresar al refugio las veces que lo necesiten. Ahí siempre encontrarán un hogar, apoyo emocional y un plan de estrategias que le ayudarán a independizarse y salir adelante. Muchas gracias.
I want to give a message to all the people that know someone going through a similar situation. Let them know not to be fearful to ask for help, and they can return to the women's shelter as many times as they need. There they will always find a home, emotional support, and a strategy plan to help them overcome and help them to become independent and go forward. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Now I'd like to welcome back Alma Borja, who's going to speak to us about some resources here in Tulare County for victims of domestic violence. And here she comes.
I'm back. Relax. I also have a dream. I have a dream that one day, Betty Luna and Alma will not have a job, that our services are no longer needed. So that is definitely my dream, that one day there's no need for us to provide domestic violence services. And I think that can happen if we work together as a community. We live in a beautiful community that come together whenever we are working and supporting a victim of domestic violence. So with that, I really wish my dream will come true one time or one day. So my job is to take a moment and share with you the resources that are available in Tulare County for domestic violence victims. So I'm going to briefly talk to you guys about what's available in the community and how we can work together in supporting victims of domestic violence. In Tulare County, there's only 2 domestic violence shelters. Can everybody hear me? I feel like I'm going to, okay. There. Karen's House, our emergency shelter with family services, and also Family Crisis Center. We offer very similar services for domestic violence victims. So Karen's House, we provide temporary housing for domestic violence victims and their children. We take single women and also women with their children in there. We support also men who are suffering domestic violence. I am excited to announce that we're actually working on housing men in our shelter at Karen's House. So we're in the process of creating a mini studio, which is actually my office right now. So I don't know where I'm going to end up. But anyway, so we're hoping that we can house male victims in our domestic violence shelter. So we are there. Our clients can stay there 30 to up to 180 days, depending on their situation. The average stay of our clients, it's about 90 days. Clients do not pay rent. We try to provide everything that our clients need when they come to our shelter. And we couldn't do that without the support of the community. And I just want to give a shout out to Soroptimus International of Visalia, who are a huge supporter of Karen's House. There's just no way we can do our job by ourselves. And this group of ladies will pick up the phone and they'll just go, what do you need? What can we do to support your work? So I know there's some members here, so thank you so much for all your support. So when clients come in, they work with our case manager and work together to identify their needs and link them to all the services that are available within our program and also community resources. We are a safe location, so our shelters are confidential, but for people that are interested in touring our shelter, I know Karen's House, we welcome. We want you to know how our shelter looks like. What's the structure of the shelter? For when you're working with the client, you can actually give her a visual picture of how the shelter looks like. A lot of times, that is the fear of clients, of not knowing how shelters look like, how shelters are run, what to expect when they come into the program. So I always welcome visitors. You do have to sign a long form that says you're never going to disclose the shelter, but I always welcome that. It makes a huge impact that you actually present how the shelter looks like, or any domestic violence shelter looks like. So let's see where I'm at. So the goal of our program is to provide a safe, supportive environment for survivors to explore their options, to come in and work with an advocate and explore what they want to do with their lives. Sometimes we get clients that are very confused and they don't know what step to take next. So our advocates are there to help them organize their own plan and take action. We help them with establish income, address any legal issues that they're facing. We link them with any local child care or low child care. A lot of times we talk to them about domestic violence. We help them recognize that they're actually in an abusive relationship. And especially for those clients or those victims that that they're not suffering physical violence, that they're only suffering emotional and psychological abuse. You would be surprised that a lot of the clients that we serve don't even recognize that they're in an abusive relationship because they're not experiencing physical violence. So that's the first step sometimes when clients come to our shelter, is to help them understand that they're actually suffering domestic violence. Let's see here. And we often are that bridge to other community resources. We connect our clients to all the services that they need. Again, we don't provide all the services. Our clients don't just come in with the DV issue. They come with a luggage full of other issues, and sometimes they have never opened that luggage. So we need your support and also to link or connect the clients to those services. We run hotlines. So a domestic violence advocate, it's always available 24 hours, 7 days a week, always available there for you and also for the victims if they're ready to reach out. For advocates, for your support, we have advocates that can actually respond to the hospital. We respond to schools. We work very closely with Korea Delta. I don't know if there's any I'm sure there's nurses here. We work very closely with them. We respond to the hospital. And really our goal when we respond to calls, it's not to force our clients to come into our services or to actually come into our shelter. We're there to provide all the information that we know, all the resources for them, and really give them an opportunity to decide whenever they're ready to leave that abusive relationship. So when, again, that's our goal, is not to force our clients to leave that abusive relationship. They know they will know when it's safe to leave that abusive relationship. So we don't want to force any of our clients to leave that environment, although that's what we want them to do. Let's see. They have access to legal assistance to file the restraining order, to file for a custody order, or advocates are constantly responding to law enforcement calls. We actually go and meet with the clients at any police station whenever we get called out. We provide the court accompaniment too, and let's see here. And oftentimes we see, that's my bilingual part. We seat. We go into the mediation rooms with our clients. Let's see here. In addition to our two domestic violence shelters, which is the Family Crisis Center and Karen's House, there's other services for emergency housing. There's other shelters that are available. There is the family shelter in Dinuba, which is the Open Gate, Family Rescue Mission in Visalia, the Lighthouse in Tulare, and then Kings Community Action, which that's in Kings County, Marjorie Mason in Fresno, and then Kern County Alliance Against Family and Sexual Assault. That's in Kern County. Let's see here. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So we are available there to not only support the victim. I know this is short, but I only have one more minute. Okay. Darn it, I lost it. So we are available there. We're not only available to the clients, but we're also a resource for you whenever you're working with a client. We cannot emphasize enough, we cannot do our job alone. It takes a whole community, and I truly, truly believe that we can end domestic violence only if we come together as a whole community. Thank you.